Assalamualaikum.
Hello, gorgeous.
We are still in Module 3, the process of enterprise architecting. So here we are going to discuss on developing current and future architecture views. So in this video, we are going to look into developing current and future architecture. So the EA framework identifies the scope of the architecture to be developed and establishes relationship between the architecture areas. The framework's scope is reflected through its geometric design and the areas that are identified for documentation. So regardless of whatever framework that is being used, but normally it has its own geometric design. So the framework creates an abstracted set of views of an enterprise through the way that it collects and organizes architecture information. So if we look at our EA3 cube framework, so it has 3 dimensions here. So the levels of this framework are hierarchical, so that different sub-architecture which describe distinct functional areas can be logically related to each other. So you can see the levels here. Right? So this is done by positioning the high-level strategic goals like this at the top, business, product, services, and data or information flows in the middle, right here, and then supporting systems or application and technology infrastructure at the bottom. So in this way, alignment can be also shown between strategy, information and technology, which aids planning and also decision making. So we can see how one level relate to another level like this. And to lower the risk and promote efficient, phased implementation methods, the EA framework is divided into segments of distinct activity referred to as line of business. So we have segments here. So if you can see here, we have one line of, this is one line of business, this is another line of business, this is also another line of business. So this is what we call as LOB. So for example, each LOB has a complete sub-architecture that includes all 5 hierarchical levels of the EA3 cube framework. So the LOB therefore can in some ways we call it a standalone architecturally within the enterprise, except that duplication in data, application and network functions would occur if each LOB were truly independent. So an architecture encompassing of all 5 frameworks level that is focused on one or more LOBs can be referred to as a segment of the overall EA. Right? So let's say this one is the operation department. So they have their own details of the architecture. So this is maybe the marketing department, and this is maybe the HR department. So every department have their own components or artifact of the architecture framework. Now, what is the current architecture view? So the current architecture is actually a collection of EA artifacts that document existing EA components throughout the enterprise. So now we have all the current architecture views depending on the level. So let's say in the strategic level of EE artifacts, so the component can be the strategic plan, the EE e-commerce or e-government plan, while the artifacts can be strategic plan itself, the SWOT analysis, concept of operation scenario, concept of operation diagrams, and also balanced scorecard. So these are the things that are being used in order to identify the strategy or to do the strategic planning in the enterprise. So in the business level EE artifacts, the components are supply chains, business processes, IT capital planning, portfolio, while the artifacts are business plan, node connectivity diagram, swim lane process diagram, business process or service model, product matrix, use case narrative and diagram, and also investment business case. Information level EA artifacts. So the components are knowledge warehouse, information systems, we have databases, while the artifacts are knowledge management plan, information exchange matrix, object state transition diagram, object event sequence diagram, and so on and so forth. System and service level EA artifacts, we have components like software applications, web services, service bus, middleware, ERP, and also operating system. And the artifacts describing the components can be system interface diagram, communication diagram, interface matrix, system data flow diagram, web application diagram. And the current architecture views for infrastructure level of EE artifacts. So the components can be data networks, computing clubs, telecommunication networks, video network cable plants, and also security solution. While the artifact include network connectivity diagram, network inventory, capital equipment inventory, cable plant diagram, rack elevation diagram. So they can have a lot of components and a lot of artifacts. So depending on the line of businesses which needs all the components and also artifacts. Now, what is the future view of the EA? The future view of the EE documents the IT resources that will be active in the operating environment several years in the future, also known as the 2B view of the EE. So future views of the EE provide an enterprise with documentation of identified changes to strategic goals, business services, information flows, support application, and also network resources. So why are the future views of the EA important? So the future views of the EA are important to the enterprise because they capture one or more possible business and technology operation scenarios which supports planning and decision making. So these future operating scenarios are based on assumptions of capabilities and strategies for successful performance in response to internal and also external influences. So basically, future architecture views represent changes. So how is the creation of EA Future View artifacts accomplished? The creation of Future View artifact is accomplished by using planning assumptions in the scenarios, and the same documentation and modeling techniques are were used to develop the current views of the artifact. If the previous development were using UML, so for the future it should use UML as well. So if the previous development is using Java, so for the future it should use Java as well. Now, why use the same documentation and modeling techniques to develop the current view artifacts in order to develop the future view artifacts? So this allows future view artifacts to be directly related to current view artifacts at each level of the framework so that potential and planned changes are evident and various types of or combination of changes can be modeled. So this is for the traceability purpose and to ensure that it is directly related. So by completing the documentation of the future EA at all levels of the framework, a view of the potential future enterprise emerged that reveals changes in priorities, processes, and resources. So this serves to promote communication about these potential changes throughout the enterprise. So the purpose of EA is because of communication. So to recall back the current EA views, so it is the collection of current artifacts represent the as-is view of the EA. So this is important to the enterprise because it serves as an integrated inventory of reference information for resource planning and decision making. So the current views of EA components also show how strategic goals, business services, and technology resources are effectively aligned, and performance gap can also be revealed. So future EA views are the potential changes to existing EA components, including new or updated strategic goals and initiatives, business services, information flows, systems, support application, and also network. So the same documentation techniques should be used in developing both current and future views of EA components so that changes are easier to highlight and compare. So that's all for now. We will continue our topic in the next video. Thank you for paying attention. Assalamualaikum.